my heart be mindful of thee, O Lord, my strength and my salvation. Amen. Would you please be seated? If you look at my face, what you can see right now is no, I have not been sitting beside a nuclear reactor. I was sitting on the third base line of a baseball game down in Clearwater, so this half of my face is bright red, and this half is rather pale. We had our youth outing yesterday at the Phillies versus the Red Sox game, and magical, wondrous things happened. The Phillies won by 10 points. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever see that again in my lifetime. It was a preseason game, so it doesn't count, but still, you have to know maybe something different, something new is going to happen this year. We had 3 rows along the third base line, just above the little a net to prevent fly balls. And we had the children from Covenant House with us. And I've got to tell you, I was a wreck. An absolute, complete, utter wreck. Because I had 6 of other people's children who don't have parents with our kids, our adults, our baseball fans. And I was thinking of all the things that could go wrong. And we picked them up. We left here at 10:30, and I finally got the last one home at 7 o'clock. So basically, I am a total wreck. But what I want to talk to you about today is how very proud I am because I saw the love of God at work. The love of God in little ways, kindness, compassion, gentleness, taking part in the lives of people who've never really known such things. These are the marks of a Christian community. These are not special, heroic, wondrous things that we've never seen before, like the Phillies winning by 10 points, that we'll never see again. But rather, it is the daily walk of a Christian life. So I'm going to have to tell you, I am so proud of the people of Shepherd Hills. They didn't let me down. Well, what am I talking about? Why am I raising this topic? Because it's a gospel reading this morning. The story of Nicodemus. Now, many of you, I assume most of you heard this before, but I want to sort of lay out what is actually going on here. And what is going on here is Jesus, and I'm going to skip to the very end, your words are fine and nice, but I want to see you put something behind them. I want to see you act. Not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. If only the politicians in our country could learn this message. We don't need words. We need action. Well, our opening story begins, you can follow along in your little flyer. Now, there was a Pharisee named Nicodemus. I'll just sort of interpret and decode this for you. There's a Pharisee named Nicodemus. The first word we get out of there that lets you understand what's going on, that puts this into context, that lets you know where this is leading you, a Pharisee. Who are the Pharisees? Well, we use that as an adjective for a person who's a bit of a show-off, but is rather hollow. But the Pharisees, they were the church people. They were the good guys. They were the pillars of society. They were educated, wealthy, and they actually took religion seriously. They weren't frauds or charlatans. They were the leaders of the Jewish community, in a community where wealth and education and religious fervor all met at the top of the pile. And those were the Pharisees. This is one of the good guys. If this were a Western, he would ride in on a white horse wearing a white hat. This is Randolph Scott in the opening credits. And this Pharisee, Nicodemus, was also a leader of the Jews. The word leader here doesn't mean that he's basically a group leader. This is a figure of political prominence. So not only is this man a man of consequence in the economy, in the electoral, in the social life, this is a political leader. This is a somebody, a professional do-gooder. A man whose mission, whose work, as was the Pharisees, was to drive out the Romans. restore the independence of Israel, and bring about all the good things that any politician has ever offered you. This was the Pharisees. This was a Pharisee who was a leader of the Jews. This is how it's described. John's gospel is teeing this up. He couldn't be any more specific. And it continues. This Pharisee came to Jesus by night. No streetlights, no internet, no telephone. He's slinking around the back alleys. He's coming to see Jesus by night. This little phrase, by night, the thief who comes by night, the spirit who comes by night. This is done in darkness. This has come in slightly bit of shame. Nobody wants to be seen doing this. He comes to Jesus by night. And what does he say to Jesus? Well, to use my children's vulgar language, he sucks up to Jesus. Here's a politician, here's a prominent man, here's a wealthy man. This is a somebody, a mover and the shaker, somebody whose name is in the paper at least once a week. He says, "Whoa, Rabbi!" That's the way to start off. Sometimes when you're a visiting priest, people will treat you like, "Hello, Dr. Conger." I don't have a PhD, but I don't mind you saying that I have one. "Hello, Rabbi." Ooh, let's raise the stakes here. "Hello, Colonel, how are you?" "Hello, Rabbi. We know that you're a teacher who has come from God. For no one can do these signs that you do apart from the power of God, the presence of God. We know, Jesus, you're a wonder worker. We know you're the goods. We know that something's happening in you." And this is a politician talking to Jesus in the dead of night. So what's he doing? He's basically setting up Jesus. Join our team. We need your endorsement. We want you on the Pharisee side, Jesus. Register today. Can we count on your vote? Can we count on your influence, your power? And Jesus messes the whole thing up. Jesus just takes it in a direction the Pharisee Nicodemus had no idea was going to happen. He said, Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God without being born from above." Nicodemus says to him, "What? What are you talking about? That's not what I'm here for." Nicodemus says, "How can anyone be born after having grown old? Can a man enter his mother's womb a second time?" He's asking a stupid question because he's exasperated with Jesus. He doesn't have that much time. People might see him leave. He wants to get Jesus signed up so that we can begin the work of building the kingdom now, politically, driving out those Romans, consolidating the power of the smart-thinking, right-thinking, good-thinking people. And Jesus is taking it in the wrong direction, talking about airy-fairy stuff about being born again from above. So of course he's going to respond like this. "Man, what are you talking about? I've already been born once. Be a bit tough on my mom for me to have her do it again." And Jesus responds, "Very truly I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God without being born of water and spirit." No one can enter the kingdom of God without being born of water and the Spirit. The Pharisees are working very hard to build the kingdom of God. Medicare for all. A chicken in every pot. A Cadillac in every garage. We're building a kingdom today. Stronger, braver, more wonderful. If you vote for me. And this is what the Pharisees are on about. They're building the kingdom of God, and Jesus is telling them that's not how you do it. You have to be born of water and the Spirit. What does being born of water mean? Well, some people say, I could refer to baptism. Yeah, they would say baptism if they meant baptism. Because they're quite clear what they mean by Spirit. Well, Jesus gives us an understanding the next little clause. What is born of the flesh is flesh, and what is born of the Spirit is spirit. Ladies, when you break your water, Sandy, what happened? You have two little boys. You're born, all human beings are born of water. What is born of water is something that is alive. It's real. It's fleshy. It's not some idea, not some panacea, not some program or proposal. It's real, flesh and blood. And the kingdom of God, you've got to be real. And that reality, that physicality, has to also be born in the Spirit as well. The two need to walk hand in hand. Not empty promises of a politician. Not the public church lady, look at me pose of the Pharisee, but walking the walk of the Spirit lived in the world today. There's such a temptation for Christians to say, oh, the world, that's going to go to hell. Let them go to hell. And we'll gather in our own little rooms and be happy and sing hymns. Well, everybody goes to hell. It doesn't matter because we're saved. Friends, Jesus is telling us, we build the kingdom of God by working out the power of the Spirit in our lives. This woman hiding under her purplish blue, what color sweater? Blanket. Needs to be congratulated. What did Gina do? Well, when you broke water, what came out? Mason. Mason, a little boy.
12.
12. I started. You can't change those things on me. I forget quickly. Here's Mason. He's at a baseball game. There are other little boys who he's never met before. There's a little boy who's 7 years old, and he's seated next to him. And what does Mason do? He proceeds to explain baseball to a little boy who's never seen a game before, who experienced kindness with no strings attached. Bill, I'm going to embarrass the woman seated next to you. Go ahead. Ashman. It says Lynn on her badge, so we're talking about a mythical Ashman. There's a 14-year-old girl who lives in a foster home. She doesn't have a mother. She doesn't have any. Mom's in prison. Dad is, I don't know if she's ever known. Mother. And yet, Ashlyn engages in an adult conversation with a little child that gives this little child a sense of belonging and presence and being part of a community. And I could go down every single aisle. We had Jason and Jonathan, we had Raymond and Sharon, we had Bill and Linda, John. What did these people do? They just acted normally. They didn't do anything special. But when you're dealing with children who've been abandoned or by their parents or taken away by the state, who are unloved, who are unwanted, this is a little child who asked to, at our pancake dinner, one of the little boy who sat next to Mason, he asked, could he play with our deputy sheriff, Christian's gun? I said, well, why don't you ask? No, he didn't. I don't think. But then he said, well, why don't you we go talk to Ron? Ron was a policeman too. And his first words, well, he hit me. No. It's not because Ron hits people. But with his 7-year-old talking to a strange man, what is his first reaction? He's going to be hit. He's going to be hit. How do you change this world? How do you build the kingdom of God? You close the doors, lock yourself in your room, think happy thoughts, or are you kind to a fatherless 7-year-old child? checkout girl at Publix who's messed up your order? Do you cut off that little old lady to get the last front row parking spot? Or do you live a life that reflects the Spirit at work in your heart? Do you walk the walk of being a Christian, or you just talk the talk? Do you shout out how great you are, how spotless and pure and clean? Or are you like Michael, here in the last row, who actually has a gift for working with small boys and girls? You have been signed up for Sunday school, Michael, as a teacher. Now, what's in it for Michael? What's in it for Ashley? What's in it for Mason? The world in which we live says to give, to get, you got to give. To get, it's transactional. There's nothing, something doesn't always come from nothing. And what did I see in a little baseball game? I saw love being lived out. This is exactly what Jesus is telling the Pharisees. You build the kingdom of God not through political campaigns, not through promises, not through armed rebellion, not through the struggle of the proletariat to overthrow the oppressors. You build the kingdom of God in the here and now. You build it today by living the Spirit of God in your daily life. Being kind and decent and honorable and truthful. I may sound like a Boy Scout when I say that, but it's true. This is what God calls us to live. A life worthy of Him. Friends, we're not all going to be called to heroics. Very few of us are going to be put in the place of being burned at the stake or having to perform some great deed in front of the world. But every single one of us today is going to bump into somebody else. Whether you visit somebody in a care facility and you see that woman who's on her second shift and she makes $8.50 an hour. She's tired, she's dirty, she's exhausted, she wants to go home, and she's not done as great a job as you want her to do. If you show love and encouragement, and if you live out the Spirit of Christ, what will that do for her? You see where I'm going with this? We can look around this world and we can think, man, it really stinks. People just don't do a decent job anymore. It's not the way it used to be. People's words are not their bond. You can't trust people. Believe me, I think this all the time. But it really doesn't matter. Because what we're called to do by God is to respond to every situation with love, with the Spirit, with God. That does not mean being a patsy, being a doormat, getting walked all over. That doesn't mean that. But what it means is living the love that Christ lived on this earth and called each of us to share. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And what else did he say? Love your neighbor as yourself. Upon all these upon this rest all the law and commandments. Friends, Pharisees in Jesus' time were good people with good ends, but they mistook politics and religion. They mistook reputation for integrity. Friends, what counts, what is inside. And what's inside drives what's outside. Don't just go through the motions. Live your life in Jesus Christ today. Amen.